The desert sun beat down, relentless. Sarah clutched her bonnet tighter, squinting at the endless horizon. Back east, life had been green and predictable. Now, everything was shades of brown and red, full of hidden dangers and unknown possibilities. She remembered the promise of California, fertile land, golden opportunities. A new beginning after losing her husband to sickness. The wagon train was a kaleidoscope of hopes and dreams, families singing songs around crackling fires, children chasing rabbits across the plains. Sarah imagined building a small house, planting a garden overflowing with flowers, and finally finding peace. She carried a small, worn book of poetry, a gift from her late husband, and sometimes, when the journey felt unbearable, she would whisper the words under her breath, finding solace in their rhythm. She would make a new life, honor his memory, and build a future, even if it was far different than she had imagined. Little did she know, the biggest change was yet to come. The attack came suddenly, a whirlwind of shouting and gunfire. Bandits, their faces hidden behind dusty bandanas, descended upon the wagon train like vultures. Sarah screamed, clutching her poetry book as wagons overturned and people scattered. The air filled with the smell of gunpowder and fear. A bullet whizzed past her ear, and she ducked behind a fallen crate. She saw families torn apart, fathers fighting bravely to protect their loved ones, mothers shielding their children with their bodies. It was chaos, a nightmare unfolding in the bright desert sun. Suddenly, a sharp pain seared through her leg. She cried out, collapsing to the ground. The bandits, looting what they could, seemed to melt back into the landscape as quickly as they had appeared. The wagon train was a wreckage of shattered dreams, and Sarah was left bleeding and alone amidst the devastation. The survivors, panicked and desperate, quickly gathered what they could and moved on, leaving her behind, a casualty of their westward push. The sun was a furnace, baking the earth around her. Sarah's throat felt like sandpaper, and her leg throbbed with agonizing pain. She tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness washed over her, forcing her back down. The wagon train was gone, leaving only tire tracks disappearing into the distance, a cruel reminder of her abandonment. Hope, which had burned so brightly just days ago, flickered and threatened to extinguish. She was alone, injured, and without water in the middle of the desert. Buzzards circled overhead, their shadows a constant, grim reminder of her mortality. She clutched her poetry book, its familiar weight a small comfort in the vast emptiness. She tried to remember the verses, but her mind was foggy with pain and dehydration. The desert stretched before her, an unforgiving landscape that offered no mercy. Survival seemed impossible. She closed her eyes, whispering a prayer she hadn't said since childhood, and waited. Waited for the end, or a miracle. High on a mesa overlooking the wreckage, Chayton watched. He had seen the bandits, their greed as bright and ugly as the midday sun. He had chosen not to intervene, such conflicts were not his concern. But then he saw her, the woman with hair the color of sand, lying still amidst the chaos. He knew the settlers. They pushed relentlessly westward, disrupting the balance of the land, disrespecting the spirits. Yet, something about her stillness, her vulnerability, stirred something within him. He observed her for hours, hidden amongst the rocks, as the survivors disappeared over the horizon. He saw the buzzards begin to circle. He knew that without water, she would not last another day. He could leave her to her fate, as the settlers had left her. But he couldn't. A silent decision formed in his heart. He would help her, but from a distance. He would watch, protect, but remain unseen. His people had learned to survive in this land, and he knew he could give her a chance, however small. When Sarah awoke, the sun had shifted, casting long shadows across the desert floor. She was weaker, her lips cracked and bleeding. She knew she needed water, but there was nothing. She closed her eyes, resigned to her fate. Then, she saw it. A small clay pot, sitting beside her. Hesitantly, she reached for it. It was filled with cool, clear water. She drank deeply, feeling life slowly returning to her parched body. Next to the pot was a small piece of dried meat. She ate it slowly, savoring each bite. She looked around, searching for the source of this unexpected gift. But there was no one. Only the endless desert stretching in every direction. Who had left this for her? Was it a dream? A hallucination brought on by dehydration? She didn't know, but she was grateful. Whoever it was, they had given her a chance to live. The water and food were a lifeline, a whisper of hope in the vast wilderness. She felt a renewed sense of determination. She would survive. Days turned into nights. Each morning, Sarah would find a fresh supply of water and food. Her leg, though still painful, began to heal. She knew someone was watching over her, but she never saw them. She started leaving small gifts in return, a smooth, colorful stone, a braided piece of grass. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, she saw him. A figure standing on a distant ridge, silhouetted against the fading light. He was tall and proud, with long, dark hair that flowed in the wind. He wore clothes made of animal hides and carried a bow and arrow. Fear mixed with curiosity. Was this her benefactor? Was he friend or foe? He stood motionless, watching her. Then, slowly, he began to descend the ridge, moving with a grace and confidence that both intrigued and frightened her. He was coming closer. She clutched her poetry book tightly, unsure of what to expect. This was the first time she had seen him, and she knew her life was about to change again. He stopped a few feet away, his dark eyes studying her intently. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. He was even more striking up close, his face etched with the wisdom of the desert. He said something in a language she didn't understand, his voice deep and resonant. She shook her head, indicating she didn't understand. He raised his hands, palms open, a gesture of peace. Then, he pointed to the water pot and the dried meat, then to himself. Understanding dawned on Sarah. He was the one who had been helping her. Tears welled up in her eyes. She managed a weak smile and whispered, "Thank you." He seemed to understand the sentiment, even if he didn't understand the words. He knelt down and gently examined her injured leg, his touch surprisingly gentle. He then pointed to the west, then back to himself, then made a sweeping motion with his hand, as if to say he would take care of her. Sarah wasn't sure what to make of it, but she knew, deep down, that he meant her no harm. She was still scared, but also filled with a strange sense of hope. Chaitan led Sarah to a small cave hidden in the rocks, a place sheltered from the harsh sun and wind. He cleaned her wound with a mixture of herbs and water, then bound it with a soft cloth. The pain lessened almost immediately. He showed her how to find edible plants and berries, how to collect water from the morning dew, and how to build a small fire for warmth and cooking. He didn't speak much, but his actions spoke volumes. He was patient and kind, always watching over her, making sure she was safe and comfortable. Sarah learned to trust him, to rely on his knowledge and skills. She watched him hunt, marveling at his accuracy with the bow and arrow. She learned to identify the different animal tracks in the sand and to listen to the sounds of the desert. Slowly, she began to heal, not just physically, but emotionally as well. The fear began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of gratitude and respect for this man who had saved her life. She was learning to survive, and more importantly, she was learning to live again. Communication was a challenge, but they found ways to understand each other. Chaitan used drawings in the sand to explain Navajo customs and beliefs, the importance of respecting nature, and the stories of his ancestors. Sarah, in turn, showed him her poetry book, reading aloud the verses she knew by heart. The words, though foreign, seemed to touch him in some way. She told him about her life back east, about her husband, about the dreams she had for a new life in California. She explained about the wagons, the farms, the towns. He listened patiently, his eyes filled with curiosity. He showed her the stars at night, pointing out the constellations and sharing the Navajo names for them. He taught her about the different plants and their healing properties. Slowly, they began to bridge the gap between their two worlds, learning from each other, respecting each other's differences. They were from different cultures, different backgrounds, but they were both human, both searching for connection and understanding. The desert, once a symbol of death and despair for Sarah, was now becoming a classroom, a place of learning and growth. The initial fear had long since vanished, replaced by a deep affection for Chaitan. Sarah admired his strength, his kindness, and his unwavering connection to the land. She found herself watching him, studying the way he moved, the way he spoke, the way he looked at the world. He, in turn, seemed to cherish her presence. He would bring her small gifts, a perfectly formed arrowhead, a feather from a rare bird, a wildflower carefully wrapped in leaves. They shared quiet moments together, watching the sunset, listening to the wind, simply enjoying each other's company. Sarah realized she hadn't felt this alive, this connected, in a very long time. The grief over her late husband still lingered, but it was no longer a constant weight. Chaitan had shown her that it was possible to find happiness again, even in the most unexpected of places. He had given her a second chance at life, and she was beginning to fall in love with him. It was a love built on gratitude, respect, and a shared understanding of the beauty and harshness of the desert. A love she never expected to find. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Chaitan took Sarah's hand. His eyes, usually so intense, were soft and filled with a tenderness that made her heart flutter. He spoke slowly, deliberately, using gestures and a few English words she had taught him. He pointed to himself, then to her, then to the mountains in the distance, then back to her. He then drew a circle in the sand, encompassing both of them. Sarah watched him, her breath caught in her throat. She understood. He was asking her to stay, to become a part of his life, to join his people. He was offering her protection, a home, a family. He was asking her to marry him. Tears streamed down her face. It was the most beautiful, unexpected proposal she could have ever imagined. But it was also the most difficult decision she had ever faced. Could she truly leave her old life behind and embrace this new one? Could she abandon her dreams of California and commit herself to a life so different from anything she had ever known? Her heart ached with longing and uncertainty. Sarah spent the next few days in turmoil. She walked alone in the desert, her poetry book clutched tightly in her hand, rereading the verses that had once brought her so much comfort. But now, the words seemed distant, irrelevant to her current situation. She thought of her husband, of the life they had planned together. Would she be betraying his memory if she married another man, especially one from a culture so different from her own? She thought of her dreams of California, of building a home and starting a new life. Were those dreams now impossible? But then she would look at Chaitan, at his kind eyes, at his strong hands, and she knew that she loved him. He had saved her life, not just physically, but emotionally as well. He had shown her the beauty of the desert, the importance of respecting nature, the power of human connection. He had offered her a love that was deeper and more profound than anything she had ever known. She realized that her dreams of California were just that, dreams. Here, with Chaitan, she had found something real, something tangible, something that filled her heart with joy and purpose. The decision was agonizing, but the answer was becoming clear. She found Chaitan by the fire, his face etched with worry. He had sensed her struggle. She knelt beside him, took his hand, and looked into his eyes. With a newfound certainty, she nodded. Yes. She would marry him. A smile spread across his face, lighting up his eyes. He pulled her close, and she rested her head against his chest, feeling safe and loved. The next day, Chaitan led her to his village, nestled in a hidden canyon. The people were wary at first, their eyes filled with curiosity and suspicion. But Chaitan spoke to them in his native tongue, explaining his love for Sarah and his desire to make her his wife. The women of the tribe approached Sarah, their faces softening with understanding. They offered her a traditional Navajo dress, woven with intricate patterns and adorned with turquoise and silver. They showed her how to grind corn, how to weave blankets, how to care for the children. Sarah embraced her new life with open arms, eager to learn and to belong. She was no longer a widow, lost and alone. She was a member of the Navajo tribe, a wife, a partner, and a woman with a purpose. Her new beginning had started. Chaitan's mother, a wise and respected woman, became Sarah's mentor, teaching her the ways of the Navajo people. Sarah learned to weave intricate patterns into blankets, each design telling a story. She learned to cook traditional dishes using native plants and herbs. She learned to respect the land, to take only what she needed, and to give back in return. She spent hours with the children, teaching them English words and reading them stories from her poetry book. They loved to hear about the world beyond the desert, about the green forests and the bustling cities. Sarah, in turn, learned from them, admiring their resilience, their sense of community, and their deep connection to nature. She helped with the planting of corn and beans, learning how to coax life from the arid soil. She learned to ride a horse, galloping across the plains with Chaitan by her side, feeling the wind in her hair and the sun on her face. She was finally at peace, surrounded by love and acceptance, living in harmony with the land and its people. She had found a home, not in a place, but in a community, in a family, and in the heart of a man who loved her unconditionally. Not everyone welcomed Sarah with open arms. Some members of Chaitan's tribe, particularly the older warriors, viewed her with suspicion. They saw her as an outsider, a symbol of the encroaching settlers who threatened their way of life. They questioned Chaitan's judgment, fearing that his love for her would cloud his loyalty to his people. Similarly, the few remaining settlers in the area whispered about Sarah, calling her a traitor for siding with the Indians. They couldn't understand how she could choose to live among them, abandoning her own kind. They saw her marriage as a betrayal of their shared heritage and a rejection of their values. Sarah faced their prejudice with quiet dignity. She knew she couldn't change their minds overnight, but she was determined to prove herself, to show them that she was worthy of their trust and respect. She would continue to learn, to work, to contribute to the community, and to stand by Chaitan's side, no matter what challenges they faced. She knew that love and understanding could bridge even the widest divides, and she was willing to dedicate her life to making that happen. Sarah remembered her father's lessons about farming and shared her knowledge with the tribe. She showed them new techniques for irrigation, helping them to improve their crops and ensure a more plentiful harvest. She used her knowledge of herbs to create remedies for common ailments, easing the suffering of those who were sick or injured. When a sickness swept through the village, Sarah nursed the sick with tireless dedication, using both her own knowledge and the traditional Navajo healing practices. She comforted the children, sang them songs, and told them stories, bringing hope and cheer to a difficult time. She also used her skills to mediate disputes between the tribe and the remaining settlers, acting as a bridge between their two worlds. She helped them to understand each other's perspectives and to find common ground. Slowly, but surely, Sarah began to earn the respect of those who had once doubted her. They saw her kindness, her compassion, and her unwavering commitment to the well-being of the community. They realized that she was not a traitor, but a valuable asset, a woman who had chosen to embrace their way of life and to dedicate herself to their cause. Sarah and Chaitan became a symbol of unity, a testament to the power of love to overcome cultural differences. They continued to learn from each other, to share their traditions, and to build a life that was a blend of both their worlds. Chaitan, inspired by Sarah's stories of the outside world, began to explore new ways of trading with the settlers, ensuring fair prices for his people's goods. Sarah, in turn, embraced the Navajo traditions, participating in ceremonies and learning the sacred songs and dances. They worked together to educate the children, teaching them both English and Navajo, preparing them for a future where they could navigate both worlds with confidence and pride. They shared stories of their pasts, teaching the children the importance of remembering their history and honoring their ancestors. Their love for each other deepened with each passing day, becoming a source of strength and inspiration for the entire community. They built a home filled with laughter, respect, and understanding, a place where everyone felt welcome and valued. They showed everyone that different cultures could not only coexist, but thrive, when built on a foundation of love and mutual respect. Their shared future was a testament to the enduring power of the human heart. One day, a group of ruthless prospectors arrived, seeking to exploit the land for its resources, regardless of the impact on the Navajo people. They threatened the tribe, demanding access to their sacred lands and disrupting their way of life. Chaitan, as a warrior and leader, stood firm, refusing to be intimidated. He rallied the tribe, preparing to defend their home. Sarah, remembering the attack on the wagon train, knew what they were up against. She used her knowledge of the settlers' ways to anticipate their moves and to devise strategies to protect the village. She helped the women and children find safe hiding places and worked alongside the warriors, preparing defenses and tending to the injured. When the prospectors attacked, Sarah fought bravely alongside Chayton, her courage surprising everyone. She may not have been a warrior by training, but she was fiercely protective of her new family and her adopted home. Together, they defended their community, showing their unwavering commitment to each other and to the Navajo people. Their love was not just a feeling, but a force, a shield against the dangers that threatened their shared future. They protected their way of life. News of Sarah and Chayton's love story spread far and wide, reaching both the Navajo people and the remaining settlers. Their marriage became a symbol of hope, a testament to the possibility of peace and understanding between different cultures. Some settlers, initially skeptical, began to see the Navajo people in a new light, recognizing their wisdom, their resilience, and their deep connection to the land. They started to trade fairly with the tribe, respecting their boundaries and seeking to learn from their traditions. Navajo people, in turn, began to see the settlers as individuals, rather than as a monolithic threat. They recognized that not all settlers were greedy or disrespectful, and they were willing to work together to build a better future for everyone. Sarah and Chayton's home became a gathering place for people from both cultures, a place where they could share stories, break bread, and find common ground. Their marriage was a living example of the power of love to heal old wounds, to bridge cultural divides, and to create a more just and harmonious world. They became living proof that peace was possible, even in the most challenging of circumstances. Their story was told and retold around campfires, becoming a legend. Sarah and Chayton were blessed with a family of their own, children who inherited their parents' strength, kindness, and deep respect for both Navajo and settler cultures. They raised their children to be proud of their heritage, teaching them the traditions, the languages, and the stories of both their ancestors. They taught them the importance of compassion, of understanding the perspectives of others, and of treating everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of their background or beliefs. They instilled in them a love for the land, a commitment to justice, and a belief in the power of peace. Their children grew up to be leaders in their own right, bridging the gap between cultures and working to create a more just and equitable world. They became teachers, healers, and mediators, carrying on their parents' legacy of love and understanding. Sarah and Chayton's love story became a family legacy, passed down through generations, inspiring their descendants to continue their work of building bridges and healing wounds. Their children and grandchildren carried on the traditions. They all remembered Sarah and Chayton's bravery. Their love was a force for change, a beacon of hope, and a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. They helped build communities. Years later, Sarah sat by the fire, her grandchildren gathered around her, listening intently to her stories. Her hair was now silver, her face etched with the wisdom of a long and fulfilling life. She looked out at the desert, no longer seeing it as a symbol of death and despair, but as a place of beauty, resilience, and endless possibilities. She thought back to that fateful day when she had been left for dead, how close she had come to losing everything. And then she remembered the mysterious gifts of water and food, the kindness of a stranger, the love that had blossomed in the most unlikely of circumstances. She knew that her life had been forever changed by Chayton, by the Navajo people, by the harsh beauty of the desert. She had found a second chance at life, a love that was deeper and more meaningful than anything she had ever imagined. She looked at her grandchildren, their faces shining with hope and understanding, and she knew that her legacy would live on. "Never underestimate the power of kindness," she said, her voice soft but firm. "And never forget that acceptance is the greatest gift of all." The desert wind whispered through the canyon, carrying her words into the night, a timeless message of love and understanding. The story ends.